Well, one beautiful day, I went to the farmer's market and I came home with loads of fresh fruits and vegetables because my daughter was coming home from college and I wanted to make her a special meal. Well, she came home a few hours later and she said, "Mom, I'm hungry." So she went to the refrigerator and she opened the door and she looked around in there and she moved this and she moved that. And then she slammed the door and she said, "Mom, there's nothing to eat." And I said, "What do you mean, darling? I just went shopping. Look at all the beautiful fruits and vegetables." "No, Mom, you don't understand. There's nothing to eat." Well, I conjured up the sweetest voice I had possible, and I said, "Oh, well, darling, I do understand. You just have to cook something." Well, it was clear that what she really wanted was something out of a package that she could just pop into the microwave. I mean, I just didn't get it. My own daughter couldn't be bothered to cook. And it really bugged me because for me, food has been my life. Food has been my life since I was 12 years old and I came home and I sat down for dinner and my mother puts pork chops in front of me. And I say to her, "Mom, I've decided to become a vegetarian." "You're gonna die," she says. "You're no longer a good Japanese girl. We should never move to America. You're becoming too American." And then she drops the bomb. "I quit. I no longer cook for you." So, which meant at the age of 12, I had to learn how to cook and feed myself. Little did I know that, a few years later, I would actually go from vegetarian to vegan, and then food would actually become my career. I love food. I put my heart, my artistry, my creativity into everything I did, and I delighted in the expressions of people that I fed. I wrote cookbooks. I did TV shows. I taught cooking. I started food companies. But I never really thought food was anything serious. I mean, it wasn't brain surgery. I just thought it was something light, fun, for enjoyment. But over the years, I've come to realize that food is more than simply enjoyment or nourishment, human health, or even its impact on climate. I realized that food defined humanity and that what we call our broken food system is a reflection of who we are. And if we want to change it, we need to change our personal and societal relationship with food. Now, over the past 100 years or so, technology has entered the food system and changed everything about it, from how we farm to what we produce to what we put on the table. The intention was to make food production easier and more efficient so we could feed more people and at the same time liberate us from its drudgery. I mean, it was almost as if technology was saying, "Hey, we can go back to the days when we were hunter-gatherers," because apparently when we were hunter-gatherers, we only spent about 20% of our waking hours foraging for food. The rest of the time, we were able to relax until the agricultural revolution, when we all became farmers working long hours in the field to produce food. Oh, that beautiful work-life balance we experience as hunter-gatherers gave way to us working 80% of our time just to make sure we had enough to eat. There was no downtime. And then the Industrial Revolution came to the rescue, mechanizing farming and giving us a hint that we may have that beautiful work-life balance again. It created all sorts of modern conveniences like refrigerators and microwaves and all sorts of novel new foods, over 50% of which comes out of a package, is ultra-processed, and comes from a multinational corporation instead of farmers. We farmed less, we cooked less, and we became increasingly disconnected from the farm and the kitchen. We began to believe that making food was a chore. The strange thing is that not only making food, we actually began to believe that even eating was a chore. Do you know that globally we are spending less and less time eating every day? In the United States and Canada, we only spend an hour a day eating and drinking. Just 4 countries globally, the Mediterranean ones, Italy, France, Spain, and you guessed it, Greece, spend 2 hours or more eating and drinking. Everybody else is in a hurry to get somewhere else. And this is actually a 5% decrease from just 10 years ago. So you can imagine how much more time our ancestors spent eating 50 or 100 years ago. Now, about a decade ago, I started a company, a food company, and I wanted to make sure that our employees had access to healthy food. So we built a big kitchen. I hired a great chef, and we served healthy, delicious meals all day long. We even put in a long table so everybody could sit down together in community and enjoy their meals. And you know what? Some people actually did. But the majority of us, including myself, often just grabbed a plate, said thanks to the chef, and then we went back to our desks to eat in front of our computers. I was actually really ashamed of myself for this. Why have we reached a point where we think it's even a waste of time to eat with others? Even I had become one of those that chose work over the opportunity to break bread with others. You know, I had made fun of a company that I'd heard about that had come out with an all-in-one meal replacement beverage so that you would never have to cook or eat again. Their motto, eat less, do more. But what do we do more of? If we're not eating and drinking together, breaking bread, bonding, communicating, telling stories, what are we doing more of? That is so meaningful. Well, this problem really, really bugged me of who we had become as humans. But I couldn't figure out why this was happening. And then one day, I was out on a hillside watching my goats grazing in the grass. Oh, I have to tell you that I am the founder of an animal sanctuary called Rancho Compasión, and we rescue farm animals, goats and pigs and cows and sheep and ducks and geese, chickens and so on. And so one day I'm just up on a hillside, relaxing in the grass like a good shepherdess, watching my goats grazing in the grass when, bam, it hits me. They were eating in the same meadow, but not at the same table. Eating for them was a solitary activity. I realized then that humans are unique in that we produce food, grow food, harvest food, cook food together as families, as tribes, as communities. Goats don't share their favorite leaves with others, but we share our favorite recipes and dishes, and we delight when others have appreciated us, and likewise when we have received something delicious. The hard work of actually producing, eating, growing food in order to nourish not only ourselves but each other as an intentional act. This is one of the distinguishing features of humankind. This is the foundation of who we are as a species, creating bonds, tribes, cultures, and stories. Because when humans do activities together, they talk. And therefore, storytelling was born of food. Storytelling further solidified the bedrock of humanity, helping to define who we were as a people, cultures, We told stories about food, and food told us stories that define customs, culture, law, and order. Laws about what to eat and not to eat, when to plant, when to harvest, whether or not it made any sense. Stories shaped our beliefs, our behavior, our attitudes, and it created an emotional connection with certain foods. If it was a god who gave the Incans corn and said, "You shall eat this because it's good for fertility and abundance," then you were going to love corn whether or not you had anything else to eat. Food and its stories have helped shape humanity for millennia and made us who we are today. But we have to remember that food has never been simply handed to us. We have always had to work for it, whether or not we grew it, harvested it, or took it back to our kitchens to turn it into a nourishing meal to feed our families. When Eve ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, well, we all know what happened. She and Adam were kicked out of paradise. Theologians have written much about those biblical first humans, but I want to add one little thing. Their relationship to food changed that fateful day when God said, "From there on, thou shalt eat dust." Because whereas before they had been like animals in nature, taking from nature what nature provided, from here on, if they wanted to eat more than dust, they were going to have to work for it. They went from being those who take to those who make. It was a small step towards the recognition of their own humanity, that they were going to have to work to make anything happen. But over the past 100 years or so, we humans have somehow gotten to a point where we think that putting food on the table is a chore, that we needed to be liberated from it. And as the food system grew more industrialized and consolidated, large multinational corporations were there to help liberate us from that drudgery. Well, we know, all of us know, how the industrialized food system has wreaked havoc on the environment, on human health, on animals, on workers' rights, on food sovereignty. The list just goes on and on and on. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm concerned about what it's doing to our souls, to our cultures, to who we are as the human tribe. We've gone from the evening meal being the big event of the day to minimizing mealtime so we can go do other things. Gone are the days of women rolling pasta together, making kimchi, forming tamales, harvesting olives, bonding, talking, celebrating, all of those activities that made us who we are. As someone passionate about food, I was part of a new wave of entrepreneurs trying to save the world and animals by creating new products to replace traditional foods. What started out as a rather organic, natural industry quickly evolved into something verging on science fiction, and it branded itself food tech. It was, and it remains, all the rage. Food tech, backed by big money, promises us big things, like making traditional agriculture irrelevant. Whether it's olive oil or coffee or meat or milk or eggs, it says it can do it better in a laboratory than on a farm. It claims it can save the world and animals by taking food production from the hands of ordinary people and bringing it back to the laboratory with science. But I wonder, is technology always the answer to solving the problems created by technology? Is food tech the ex machina that can fix the broken food system with science and bioreactors and in laboratories? Or could this be a path that leads us to a further consolidation of the food system, leaving it in the powerful hands of those with money and those wearing lab coats. If ordinary people, the smallholder farmers, the women, the cooks, are taken out of the equation of the food system, well, what will happen to the traditions and stories that have defined who we are today? If what it means to be human is in fact the intentional act of nourishing each other with food, not just ourselves, then what happens when everything is simply handed to us by multinational corporations? Will we become increasingly disconnected from ourselves and what it means to be human? Or will it even matter? Will we experience the same sense of joy, have the same celebration when food just comes out of a package rather than someone's kitchen? Or are we potentially facing an existential crisis where we could lose our humanity, our culture, our sense of the human tribe? But perhaps we are all complicit in the direction that food and food technology are going. We fooled ourselves into thinking that food is some easy thing that just comes out of a box or a freezer, or that we can hunt and gather between the aisles of the supermarket for some instant treat. We've kidded ourselves into thinking that food is a chore, that growing food, making food, cooking food are all things that we need to do away with. But real food comes from the hard work of ordinary people and embraces the stories of those who make it. The act of putting our hearts, souls, and effort into food nourishes not only our bodies, but feeds the soul of humanity, without which we risk losing what it means to be human. It's us, people, who must evolve if we are to take care of each other, the planet, and animals. It's us, ordinary people, who must reconnect with food and bring to the table respect and compassion for each other, the planet, and animals. Let's reclaim food in order to reclaim our humanity, one shared meal at a time. Years ago, I had one of the first vegan restaurants in San Francisco. And one holiday, it was the American Thanksgiving, I was just way too exhausted. I hadn't shopped. I didn't know what I was going to prepare for my family. And, I was just lounging in my pajamas that day. My refrigerator was empty when a knock comes at the door. So I go to answer it, and there stands Byron, one of the cooks from the restaurant, with 4 or 5 other people I didn't know. And he says, "Oh, this is my family. They came to visit me from Guatemala." And we drove around San Francisco looking for a place to eat, and everything was closed. So we thought, well, we'll just go to Miyoko's house because she's always got a lot of food. So I laughingly said, my refrigerator's empty, but come on in. So he and I went into the kitchen, and somehow we scrounged around, and we found a little bit of this, and we found a little bit of that, and we managed to put together a beautiful meal. I have no idea what we ate that day. All I recall was how delicious everything was, the happy expressions on the faces of everyone, the warmth in the room, and that it was one of the most memorable meals I've had. Thank you.